It's Spoilerin time, and this week we will talk about the third episode of the first season of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, the 2016 version of the series. We're also going to talk about The Good Place, episode 3 of season 3, Better Call Saul's season finale, also known as season 4, episode 10, and the movie First Man. But first, man, let me introduce myself. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, man, I'm Brian Brushwood, and most importantly, let's introduce the best man at this wedding of awesome, Justin Robert Young.
I was actually just the best man in a wedding a week and a half ago.
Humble brag.
That's what I was referring to. Now let's peek in on the winter movie draft. Who boy?
Somehow, Venom kept making money, and somehow Nicole still didn't catch Brian.
Yeah. Also, A Star Is Born continued to make some cash. I think
at a greater pace. Yeah.
Or at least a more. There was less of a drop off with Star Is Born. So right now we're at Team Me has 154. Nicole has 149. She was in first place last week, but now between Night School and A Star Is Born and a generally quiet field, aka the poor opening of First Man at only $16 million. I'm sorry, Justin. It seems like everybody went and saw the movies from the previous week, which makes me feel like I have more of a fighting chance than I did last week.
Yeah. Night School's doing really well at $59 million. That's a great buy. You only spend $8 on it.
Yeah, and I have a good feeling that it'll make at least another $20 million. I think A Star Is Born could really continue to make more money as
I think it'll have legs.
Yeah, as word of mouth spreads around, and especially leading up to Oscar time. This is not something we say about movies right after they come out very often, but Justin, my gut says that there's another 60 plus million in the tank for A Star Is Born based on the buzz.
Not only the buzz, but also, now the soundtrack is number one. If this is going to be a gigantic moneymaker, then it will be a cultural phenomenon, which it seems on the way to being. That would be in comparison to First Man, which, although critically is indeed a triumph, financially is more Apollo 1.
Wow. Dark. Goosebumps 2 didn't do so hot either. I really expected more than 15.8 million out of that when there's really no other family stuff out there.
Well, it just looked bad. That was the problem with Goosebumps 2 is that when gigantic gummy bears are your number one selling point, I think that there was just not enough of that magic, nor did it even I didn't see the first Goosebumps, but it didn't look like a sequel to it necessarily in the trailer. It looked a little bit too kiddie. So,
and next week we have Serenity, which is Team John Trekker's first movie to come out, and Halloween, which I'm starting to get a good feeling about. It's my movie too.
By all accounts, everything I'm seeing about Halloween looks like it'll be a good movie. But as we've seen with First Man, being a good movie is a marginal benefit when it comes to the movie draft.
Well, but Halloween will be a crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
If you're looking at a Halloween comp, you're looking at it, right? Something that was just like people walked out of the theater saying, "Oh, that was great. There was spills and chills and crazy visuals, and I like it." And we're gonna get into more of a First Man discussion. I liked the movie, and I was like, well, I don't need to carve out those 8 hours ever again.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of First Man, we got an email, and I haven't seen it, but Brian and Justin have. Our emailer, David Pick in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, pointed out that I liked First Man. I kept comparing it to From the Earth to the Moon, a miniseries that aired on HBO more than 20 years ago. The difference in storytelling in a film versus television was obvious. Take the Apollo 1 tragedy. An episode in From the Earth to the Moon dealt with the tragedy and hammered over and over that it happened in 33 seconds. I didn't take a stopwatch, but I'm certain they depict the tragedy in real time of 33 seconds in the film. I own the 5-disc DVD set of the miniseries, and unfortunately HBO has yet to stream it on HBO Go or Now. As much as I want it legally streaming, the owners of the miniseries refused to do so. And he has a link to the Wikipedia article. As much as I know you could talk about license restrictions and piracy forever in every episode, maybe a simpler topic is there's still a place for physical media going forward.
I'll tell you what, man, for as often as we ask why bother with physical media, this is a very good example of why, is because it's very hard for somebody to take physical media out of your hands.
Yeah, I actually had a situation like this with HBO did a movie about the Rat Pack based on the book Rat Pack Confidential that has Ray Liotta as Frank Sinatra and Don Cheadle as Sammy Davis Jr. And so I was looking for it to go watch it, and it did not exist anywhere on any of HBO's plethora of streaming properties. So luckily, at some point, at like some going out of business sale of a Blockbuster, I picked it up for like $5, and I still have it. Now all I need is a DVD player.
All right, let's talk about First Man. You guys both liked it, I guess.
Yeah, I liked it a lot, and I guess I'll go first because I can't imagine my experience was the same as Justin's. The things that resonated with me, first of all, spoiler alert, it begins with the fact that Neil Armstrong was an engineer test pilot who had a child die at or around the age of 3 of a tumor, and it's totally heartbreaking. And once you've had a kid, you just have this open back door forever, and they make that the anchor for the entire story going forward. And because they go out of their way to get so much stuff factually right, when there's a surprise, my default reaction was to say, holy crap, that happened too? Among those being the feeling of acute claustrophobia that happens when you see, essentially from a first-person perspective, just how little room there was in the Gemini capsules. But the biggest moment of the entire thing that was a surprise to me, that I have to assume is true because everything else was true, is a private moment away from the cameras on the moon when he drops the bracelet with the name of his daughter, Karen, into a crater, essentially burying, her memory on the moon. It was very powerful to me. Now, having said that, there's a lot of, I would consider them delightfully slow moments, because all of my memories of everything before 1985 were exactly like that. Shag carpets, people playing on pianos, adults talking adult stuff, kids just wanting to go outside and hit things with sticks. I thought it was lovely. I'm also glad that I didn't take my wife to go see it, because I don't know that she would have enjoyed it, because she doesn't find it very pleasant to think about the mortality of our young children.
And look, that's a huge part of the story. And this is a very, very, very personal story about Neil Armstrong. I think Ryan Gosling's performance is great. He seems to have found this period of his career where he is just playing very introverted people or actual robots. And I think it suits his acting style very well. Not to say that he's not a very charismatic guy, but I do think that his best work has been the quietest, like Drive. So he's capable. Brian and I had a lot of fun over the weekend joking about the fact that they surround him with the weirdest faced character actors you possibly can find, because blown up on an IMAX screen, Ryan Gosling's blemishless, perfect little face is just surrounded by ogres, and then also Coach Taylor, who they keep in half shadow, just so you don't notice that he's also kind of a handsome man. But in all seriousness, look, this is about a neighborhood, and this is about a man who brings you into a neighborhood, and you get the most affecting moments of the film in what they set up are the personal trauma that happens in a small town. There's one particularly affecting scene where Neil's wife, on one of his trips prior to the Apollo trip, that obviously was the first man on the moon, all of a sudden the little box that his wife can listen to what's going on from the comm center, they turn it off because things are not going according to plan. And she just goes, and it's this very small town moment where she just goes to the central command and is just like, hey, turn the box on. Like, either I'm going to like make a scene and I'm going to start yelling at reporters, or you're going to turn my box on. And it's just like this very humanizing idea that like, it's just something you're just going to City Hall to say, turn the lights in town square back on, because that's what I want. You know, it was just tremendous, and all the best stuff is there. It's a long movie. It's deliberately paced, but I very much enjoyed it. I don't expect it to make any more than the 16 million that it's made, though, which
is a shame, given how good it is, and especially watching it in IMAX when they pivot to that full screen IMAX experience. And you know, I tweeted earlier today, it's like I have to keep reminding myself, like, nope, I did not actually go to the moon. I was not the person that set foot. but you feel that way. It does a good enough job of bringing you in there.
So claustrophobic, so visceral. I think Andrew Main earlier on Weird Things Today made the point that the only time that you really see the full vehicle, so you are always, if our astronauts are inside, then you are inside. You very rarely see a full spacecraft. Really, the only time that you do is when the Saturn V is taking off, because it is just so thunderous and amazing. But other than that, you are in that cockpit and you are feeling every breath. And you feel how close to life and death all those missions were compared to even where we are now. Just amazing. I mean, obviously Damien Chazelle is probably one of our best technical directors, and this is one of his masterworks.
I will say also, I was constantly reminded of the amazing work of the author Ryan Holiday, both with his books, Ego is the Enemy and The Obstacle is the Way. This movie is a study in stoicism. It is a study in what being a great person looks like, and it involves a lot of putting your head down and getting through the hard crap, not being excited about the limelight or the glory or any of that stuff. Like, there's this great moment when the mission commander says to him, hey, so look, we talked it over and you did really well on this mission. We'd like you to run the mission and you'll be the first one to sit on the moon and, or to stand on the moon. And incredibly, Ryan Gosling just, pauses and nods and says, okay. And it's like, and you believe it in a way. And it's like he is the opposite of everything. I'll project this on me, but I suspect Justin will empathize with this. Like, he's the opposite of us in that there's no singing, dancing, or triumphant fist pumping or anything. He's just putting his head down and doing the necessary thing for the story, for the mission, for his country, for his family, for everything. He's everything that I wish I was, but definitely am not. And I've never felt that more than in this movie.
Yeah, I would say I'm certainly more of the Buzz Aldrin than I am the Neil Armstrong personality-wise. Buzz Aldrin does not come off well at all in this movie. It is again, it's Neil's movie, but he is pretty much there like 4 times to say bad things and have Neil Armstrong grimace and be the only person in the movie that can really arouse the anger in Neil Armstrong to like do anything close to slapping somebody down in public.
Which I sort of adored, because what those moments were to me was seeing what an extrovert looks like through the eyes of an introvert. And it wasn't that he meant anything bad by any of the things he said, any of the times he said it. It's just that it always came out looking gross through the eyes of Neil Armstrong. And yet there was one scene where we were very thankful that Buzz Aldrin was the extrovert of the two of them. When it comes to those press moments and Neil's not nailing it, not landing anything. And Buzz comes in with, the right amount. You're like, oh, thank God he's got something going for him.
But yeah, First Man. You might not have seen it the first weekend, but you can still be the first in your heart to enjoy this out of this world adventure.
Well, and as Justin is the first man on this show, he'll also be the first man to be leaving this episode. Justin has not watched any of the other stuff we're going to talk about, so we're going to say goodbye. Thanks again, man. And once again, folks, where can we find you, Justin Robert Young?
Oh, I'll tell you what. You can just go ahead and find me on Twitter at Justin R. Young. And this weekend, you can find me at Politicon in Los Angeles. I will be there selling the Contender card game. So if you're into politics, then come on down. Say hi, shake my hand. I'm not doing any panels or nothing, but I will be slinging them games.
You might even see Roseanne. You just never know.
Mm-hmm. All right. See you, boys.
See you, Justin. Let's talk about the season finale of Better Call Saul. I hate to say it, Brian, as much as I'm enjoying this show, I'm kind of glad it's over.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yeah.
I guess we'll begin at the end. We get it. He's gone to the dark side. He understands that since he doesn't actually have empathy for his brother, but is aware of what people want to hear, this is the last bastion, that this is him unlocking the last gate and just going full on faker on everything. And you get that one moment where he and Kim seem to be on the same page. And then Kim's like, oh, no, wait, you're actually a sociopath and you really don't care about anyone but yourself. Or at least that's how I'm perceiving you in this moment. The writing was a bit on the nose with the Saul good, so Saul good,
Saul good, man.
Like, okay, yes,
that's gonna be my name.
No, I get it. Also, slightly, I guess that's my least favorite thing is that whole thing is in one episode we go from him melting down and destroying his relationship with Kim to shrug, LOL, guess I got it within a day anyway. Also now I'm a supervillain. Mike's was a little bit better in that we had a bit of an actual detective story. It was fun to watch him run his process, and it was a little bit fun for, that dude to realize, oh, wait, I don't get to go home or anything, do I? I'm going to, let me make this easy on you.
I miscalculated this, didn't I? Oh, crap.
That was all right.
I mean, and it's the opposite of Jimmy's story, right? I get the parallel. Like, Jimmy could do a lot of good right now, but instead is being a sociopath, whereas Mike is a very good person who can't do good right now.
Yes, well, he understands the chess game well enough. Yeah. He's like, I have an obligation to my employer to the best of my ability, advise him, and I cannot in good conscience recommend he do anything other than murder this person who has demonstrated a credible ability. Yeah.
And if I gave that sentence, I'm going to swing the sword. I'm not going to have anybody else do it.
Right, exactly. And that was fine for what it is, but I think we like Mike enough that scene, we know he gets to be a very dark, I mean, when we first meet him, we only know him as a murderer, and the fact that we've seen him before he becomes those things in no way stops the freight train of him becoming a credible, terrifying murderer going forward.
Yeah, it's almost like Mike is literally Breaking Bad here, and Jimmy is just showing that as much of an asshole as Chuck was, he was right.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly what the point of them revisiting the flashbacks with Chuck is. I don't know what that gets us.
Yeah, it was a good scene. I actually enjoyed it while watching it. Like, oh, it's kind of cool to see Chuck again. It's interesting to see them building the fact that no, these two brothers did love each other, and it just felt like a ripoff when Jimmy gave his defense And I'm like, oh, okay. So we're showing that Jimmy remembers that part. He remembers those feelings about Chuck. And then when he does the little like, and I don't even know if Jimmy believes it, but whatever, like, yeah, those suckers. It just bankrupted that early scene of anything other than fooling me into believing Jimmy.
Well, and also, if the intention of that opening scene was to remind us that Chuck was a real piece of work and a real jerk, and that Jimmy really desperately craved his affection and approval, I don't know that they needed to do that, because I think we were already on board. I didn't
think that was the point of it at all, because they show Chuck being human. They show Chuck actually caring for Jimmy. I thought it was supposed to soften our memories of Chuck.
No. I interpreted it very differently, because Chuck is trying to leave. Jimmy gets him up for karaoke, and what does Chuck do? He steals the mic and steals the show.
Right.
And then and which I assume drives Jimmy to drink.
All the part back at Jimmy's apartment when Chuck takes care of him and doesn't leave and sings with him while Jimmy is drunk.
Yeah.
That's the part I'm talking about. Because, at first I'm like, okay, we're just going to see what an asshole Chuck is again, because he steals the show. But then they ended with that soft note of like, oh, wow, like Chuck really is, he does care for Jimmy.
Well, and also, like, getting Chuck to sing was Jimmy's, that's why he picked that song, I imagine, because
he knew he
would stick around and get Chuck lubricated for the rest of the night.
Right, which only left me even more feeling like, man, I get it. Chuck's a real jerk, and Jimmy really will do anything to win his approval and try to set him up for success and all that stuff. It's interesting that a bit of a Rorschach test, that one. At any rate, I'm sad to say it, but it's like, I'm with you. I'm glad to have a break, because I don't know what we got pretty much out of this whole season. This whole season, I'm gonna guess, in the overall narrative, could have just been totally cut out, and I don't know that we would have lost virtually anything.
I think you could have done this as a couple episodes, because we do get a lot out of it. But if you think about it, how many times did we have montages that sped us through time?
Right.
That fast forwarded us. Like, this is basically saying, okay, after Chuck dies, Jimmy goes through hell because of what Chuck did, and Kim goes through a little hell because Chuck's dead. And how do they resolve those two things? Now you know. Jimmy resolves it by starting a criminal enterprise and deciding that fooling people into giving him back his law license is worth it, because he can do so much more with it than he could selling prepaid phones, now that he's learned a little about that world. And Kim is going to be very disappointed that that's where he's going. You could have done that in 2 episodes.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I think this episode with the offshoot with the young lawyer, the intern, or the scholarship, that whole sequence, I really like that, because that at least sets up Jimmy's like return to kind of how a little bit of slip in Jimmy, but also kind of what we see in Better Call Saul, as someone who like knows that they are permanently stained in his community and has to work twice as hard just to get where he, believes he should be, or to succeed, in an otherwise, closed off environment.
Yes.
They're never going to believe you, so anything you say is justified.
Mm-hmm. And man, I wish we had explored that territory in a more interesting and less flat discursive way,
Well, because it could lead to a very nice conversation with him and Kim, where he kind of explains that to Kim from his point of view. But instead, we just get like, yeah, them suckers, Saul Goodman, see you later.
Right, and there was no shortage of opportunities to explore that territory, too, given the whole arc of Kim just out of nowhere deciding that she wanted to do pro bono defense on people. And yet all of the people she defended, none of them appreciated any of her efforts, right?
Well, she started the rush. And I think by Kim saying, I want to pull another scam, and them doing one, was that in this episode where they actually pull off the baby milk scam with the plans, or was that last week?
Oh, last week.
Okay,
yeah, that was last week.
Yeah. But her and him like actively getting into more stuff. I think that's why he had that quick turn after winning the appeal. Was like, okay,
he thinks she's on.
Yeah, you're in on this with me. We're getting exactly what we want any way we can.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm fundamentally feeling ripped off by that too, because instead of her seeing what he's saying, because he's being so cartoonish about it, I think she doesn't, she rightfully is put off by it. But then it's like, well, you wanted to do the baby milk scam, so come on, like.
Yeah. I mean, and plus also keep in mind, all of this is coming from a place where it's like, we don't know what of our investments we experienced over this past season are going to pay off in a big way, and which one won't. But I will say, I feel extremely tapped out on my emotional and attention bank account, and I'm not sure what I bought at this point.
And that's the end point at the end of this episode was just also felt flat, right? Like, it's a big turn, but it's not suspense, right? It's not Chuck burning down his house with him inside of it. It's not Chuck having a heart attack or a stroke, which I think was season 2, right? Or in the copy shot. Like, it's not suspense. It's dramatic, but it's not necessarily like, oh, they're gonna have another long conversation about this.
Plus, also there's either that whole flippant at the end, Saul Goodman or whatever, either that is the transformative moment, at which point he's now, a cartoon villain, or it is a fake out. If it is a fake out, then screw you. That's a bad episode, and I don't like that you did that.
And I don't think it will be. I think it.
If it is real, then also screw you, because I think the audience deserved a more transformative moment when he realizes that he's the villain, and instead it was neither. And I didn't really care for the mushy middle we ended up in.
I wonder if we'll appreciate the season more after next season or after the series is done, though.
Correct.
And I just want to say for the record, what I'm saying this for the people listening, not because I expect Brian or Bryce to change any of their reactions to what I'm about to say. Okay. I like the Mike Fring stuff. I think that's the part of this season that I enjoyed, was that stuff. So that still worked for me. Just for the record. But yeah, otherwise I'm with you guys. Like I got left feeling a little bit like, okay, good. I need a break from this.
What was
before we go back?
The Nacho stuff? Like he and Lalo went to go see Hector. Was that it? They gave Hector the bell.
That was last episode.
Oh no! The one dude was following Mike.
Lalo.
Yeah.
Right.
No, Lalo followed Mike out into the desert,
and then Mike faked him out and got lost
and called Fring and was like, "Hey, this guy's following me," and Fring's like, "Okay, got it. I know who that is."
But that was kind of the end of that, right? Of the whole Lalo Nacho thing.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know where, like that. But that is a little bit of not a cliffhanger, but at least there's some suspense there, which is, is he going to catch up with Mike? What's Fring going to do? Like there are some unanswered questions there.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about The Good Place. We'll start with Brian explaining why this is called the Snowplow.
Yes, because I watched it today, and I had it on in the car and wasn't paying attention to it for the first few minutes.
So there's a moment when Michael decides to make some decisions, and I love the new context where they don't have their all-powerful gifts. So instead, they take an assessment of what powers they have. And Janet, basically, being Siri, says, well, I do know everything in the universe up until the moment that we went rogue. And so, and it's like, well, should we do this? And it's like, hey, no, we're not deciding where they're going to go. We're not nudging them. We're just making it really easy to take one route over the other. We're like a snowplow.
Okay.
And so she has them go through all of the scratch off lottery tickets, and then they get to that one, and they're like, oh, the old 186th in a row, always the lucky one,
for only $18,000 also. A very moderate award.
That was a great bit too, when Tahani apologizes upon hearing it. She's like, I'm so sorry.
I see from context that is quite a bit of money.
Well, I love how much Eleanor is over Tahani. Like, I'm always gonna get it. I always know what you mean.
Man, change of venue, it just keeps working, and change of powers keeps working. I love the fact that the show begins with the fiction that Michael is their guardian angel, and is now 2 seasons later,
literally
he's literally their guardian angel.
As their guardian angel.
Like, it's great. It's so great. I'm gonna watch it again with Bonnie as soon as we're done on this. Possibly one of the smartest, most fun, best shows I've ever seen, and I look forward to watching it again and again and again.
The other thing is, I don't know where they're going next, and that's the fun of it. Like, I don't even have theories about where they're going next. I'm ready to sit back and just be snowplowed along. It's fine.
Well, they do a good job of setting up a cliffhanger, to going back to a little bit what we said with Saul. Like, they set up this big cliffhanger for next week of, like, you think that it's like, oh, we're just going to reset it and there'll be a heist episode and he'll hit the button and they'll start all over again. And it's like, no, now you've tainted them and now they know about you and they see the big door and everything. Which is something that
that's right.
Is really good.
That's a big twist. At the
they
end
all
of this
walked in
episode.
and it was like, what the hell's that?
Yeah.
Right. Which is great, because then that's not what I had expected would happen, right?
Which all of a sudden I'll be so curious if over the next week it's like would Michael lie in order to keep the experiment going? Would he say we're aliens or something, and have to maintain this Three's Company style lie with him and Janet or whatever?
Totally. Yeah,
I'd be on board. Like, I mean, they could do no wrong, man. Everything about it is fantastic.
I do wonder if they're still going to do this, like, we're going to replay the last year, if only because, but maybe these are all red herrings, but like the parts between the time jumps did have like Michael and Janet very deliberately, like, having a conversation of, I'm going to do this, Janet. And Janet's saying, oh, you shouldn't do this. And he says, I'm going to do it. She says, okay, we're going to do it. Like, those are the exact points you would redo if you were going to redo it all again. But why would you spend so much time if the idea is you're going to twist away from doing that at all? It's good.
That's why I don't know. Maybe they'll do that. Maybe they'll do that.
Maybe not.
5 episodes down the road. I have no idea.
Separate thing, man. I got to tell you, I would watch a spin-off series of just Michael and Janet. Like, those two and their chemistry and the yin-yang thing they have going is amazing.
How cool must she feel playing those scenes with Ted Danson and realizing, like, you know, she's a young up and coming comedian who's playing with Ted Danson, and they're buddies, you know, they've got it going on. It's amazing.
It's truly amazing. She's fantastic. Darcy Carden.
Darcy Carden. Yeah, man. Very good episode. I don't even know what to expect, and it's going to be tough to wait 4 more days for an episode.
Well, then we have but one piece of business left to discuss, which is our library viewing of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, episode 3. First 2 episodes. I actually like the second episode a little better than Brian did, but I was decelerating. This episode didn't lose me. I don't have feelings about it. It's very hard for me to express anything other than I watched it and I will now watch the next one.
Can I make a guess? Because I feel the same way, but here's what I think matters structurally is you and I were already on board for the universe. You and I accepted everything at face value. There was no need to prove anything to us. But then again, keep in mind, you and I had watched Preacher. You and I are familiar watching your Doctor Who's or whatever.
I've been thinking of this as Legion with a plot.
Right. This was the episode where, and I did like that they kind of painted it red, both on the good side and on the bad side. You had 2 characters that were number 2s who have the realization, oh crap, this is real. This is really happening. You really are. There is something to this whole trusting in the universe stuff. And I'll also say that the combat sequence with the motorcycle gang and that and crazy demon chick was great. Loved it because everything was just credible enough. And it's like, if the universe wanted you to get out of that situation without much effort, that's exactly what it would look like. And so it sold me on it. Outside of that, really the only other thing we got was Elijah Wood's sister having one of her episodes, but it becoming clear that the Rowdy 3, which are 4 people, are truly there to protect her or harvest something for her or whatever, because she's losing her mind and they're inhaling her crazy sauce. And everything turns out okay. So whatever, minor plot advancement. Mainly this is, we also got the connective thread finally with the military guys to Dirk Gently, who apparently...
And the assassin.
Yes, correct. Who apparently was, they gave his whatever previous real name or whatever. And for the first time, we see like genuine terror and shame and anger on his face. So a little bit of foreshadowing on all that, but yes, not a lot happened, but it does feel good to have less baggage on our shoulders and to feel like, okay, we can finally start running now, and that's where I feel like we're at now. I
think you nailed it. I was all ready to run.
Correct.
I didn't need to be have somebody put on my shoes and give me a sports watch and a Gatorade. I was already ready to run, and maybe I'll be glad to have that Gatorade down the road. But this really did feel like the middle part of a story. Now that I'm thinking about it, when you were going through it, I'm like, no, nothing here is wrong, nothing here is bad, everything is necessary. It felt like for me, it was like, okay, yes, of course. Yes. Now let's go.
It was two things. It was a codification of the rules, like explicitly stating these are the rules of the universe. By the way, if you need a demonstration, let us show you. And then it was a clear description of the chessboard of what the pieces are and who belongs to who and what everybody is motivated to. And I will say, to be fair, we did learn a lot that we might have suspected in the last episode, but had no way of knowing. Confirmed. But now we flatly know who's chasing who for what and why.
Anything else on Dirk Gently then?
No, still enjoying it. I'm waiting for it to really capture my heart. I'm not getting that Firefly sense of, pre-anger that it didn't get a third season already. Like by this point in Deadwood, I was already upset that wait, we're watching a dead show and it's already dead, but I'm not yet feeling that for Dirk Gently.
Oh, well, thank you, folks, for keeping us from being dead by supporting us on Patreon. Patreon.com/Cordkillers is the only way we survive. We will last as long as you vomit your crazy sauce energy into our Patreon.
Yeah, man, vomit your crazy sauce energy into our little bird beak mouths. Cheap, cheap, cheap. It's the only way we survive.
We'll spoil you again next week.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.